Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a Tuesday night blether. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let a flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Good evening, folks. Hope you're all well, comfy, cozy, and had a good weekend. Thank you very much, Ril, for your generous donation. Uh, Quite taken with that. Thank you very much for that one. Most unexpected. Um, there's no easy way to say this, folks, so I'm just going to say it. As some of you know, my partner, Laura, was a regular on the channel until she took unwell. So I'm sorry to report that on Saturday night she passed away. So it's been a bit of a wild weekend. Thanks, Woodlander, with one thing and another. As you all know, I'm sure, there's all sorts of arrangements and complications trying to get funerals sorted out and what have you. So my head isn't the way it usually is. Oh, there's Durst. Thank you, Durst. And Budgie, thank you. Well, we'd been together for getting close to 30 years. Yeah, long time. And of course, my involvement with Laura was in two parts, actually. No, that's certainly true, Real. No doubt about it. For some people, it's so difficult that if they've been through it once, they're not willing to become involved again. But in Laura's case, in my case, we used to be boyfriend, girlfriend when we were teenagers. I was in the group. She was a groupie. And like a lot of people, we went our separate ways for reasons that I don't remember all of the reasons. Some of them I remember, but not all of them. She went one way and I went another. And then in 1993, thank you very much, David. 1993, she came back into my life again. I'd put together a book of poetry, and it was being advertised, promoted, if you like, in the local paper. That was my first involvement with a local paper. And of course, it carried a photograph of me and some of the details. And that's how we came back into contact. She phoned the local paper and asked for my number. And they weren't going to give her it, but she went into a long explanation, apparently, about how we knew each other and how we went with one another as teenagers and all this. And eventually they relented and gave her my work number. And she phoned the school. And I couldn't remember her. I had no recollection of who she was. But she persevered, as was her nature. And gradually it came into my mind that I thought I knew who she was, you know. So we agreed to meet up, and that's what happened. We met up, and I did remember who she was. It came back to me, and she prompted me with various memories about things, daft things that we had done. And that's how it began. And for 2 or 3 years, we would meet up and go for a drink and quiet chat. And gradually, over time, that blossomed into romance. And that was us. We were a couple. We never ever lived together, of course, because by the time this happened, my son was 15 and she had two children, Lorraine and our son. And as I said, it would never work if we moved in together because these children didn't know each other. Were completely different personalities with different fathers and mothers. And it was more sensible to stay in my house and her to stay in her house. Oh, you're absolutely right, David. It's a really great quote there, of course. Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, yeah. A great quote. And we did, we had plenty of great times. I mean, I used to say that to her. I always kind of puzzled her a little bit, you know. I would say that to her. I said, you know, one of the great things about you, Laura, she would say, what's that? I said, you have the ability to make me laugh. Uh, and it was true. She could make me laugh. And even when I think about her, even today, uh, uh, just thinking of her raises a smile. And it'll always be that way because that was always you know, one effect that she had on me. Not the only effect, but for me, one of the most important ones. She could always raise a smile and she could always make me laugh. Not that she was, you know, I don't mean by telling jokes and things, just the way she was as a person. So I'm really going to miss her, of course. I'm already. Um, so this is the second loss I've had to death. Helen and now Laura. But as I used to say to her, if you go before me, there will not be another one. And I'm sure that's the way it's going to be. I won't be out looking. Hello there, Treble M. Well, I thought at the very least I could do, Treble M, is to come on and let the troops know what was going on. It wouldn't be a good look, you know, for you good people to show up here and I'm not here and you not know what's going on. Good evening, Toffee. I wasn't sure whether I was going to come on myself, Tremolo. Uh, I didn't know how I was going to be, but I thought at least I'll put in an appearance. That's the least I can do, and let the chat know what's happening. And that's one of the reasons I'm on. Of course, we're doing some arrangements tonight. Uh, Still got a few, the doctor's holding up things with, they haven't issued the death certificate yet. And of course, as you all probably realise, that's holding everything up. Apparently it's promised tomorrow, and that'll move things along. Because we can't get the crematorium booked and a time or a day fixed until the undertaker's got this death certificate. Uh, so hopefully that'll happen tomorrow, and things will move forward then. But it could be, and we're expecting it to be a week on Thursday. Now, whether I'm going to stay on for 2 hours tonight or not is another matter. But I will also make an appearance on Friday. I just wouldn't leave you all in the lurch, so to speak. Especially without you not knowing. Well, now you know. And as you come in a bit, well, I do worry about you, as you well know. I do concern myself with you. As I've often said, um, I've tried to make a community here, and that isn't just words. Community means we help each other, support each other, and as much as we can, be here for each other. I couldn't agree more, Woodlander. I mean, you're correct in what you say. Oh, there's Leo. Well, that's nice of you, Leo. It really is. I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Appreciate it from all of you, of course. So Toffee fully understands because he came in a bit later. Um, my partner, Toffee, Laura, passed away on Saturday night. And you can imagine things have been a bit haywire. And I agree with what Woodlander's saying. Sometimes, you know, it helps to be by yourself, and other times it's really good when there's people there. Depends on the people, of course. You get the right people. So I now need to prepare myself. You're right, of course, Toffee. There are no words. I have to prepare myself for delivering the eulogy. I understand that, David. I do. After my dad died, I just wanted to be on my own for a while. I think most human beings go through that. I do. I think the most of us go through that. Yeah, Toffee, we were together going on 30 years, believe it or not. Uh, as I've often said to people and in conversations with others, I don't have as the Americans put it, I don't have a big body count when it comes to um, having sexual intercourse. I don't have a big body count. I haven't been with that many women because of the length of time I've been. I've been with two of them, 50 years between them. It's a long time. Woodlander, I find death really effing frustrating. I hate it. Don't we all? Don't we all? I was a hard-nosed bee up until my dad died. Kind of broke something, says Rill. Did it break something, Rill, or did it allow part of you to blossom, to finally come out and blossom? Well, Woodlander, I get that, Rill. Same for me until my mum died. My mum went. Took me a long time, like 5 years, to come to terms with it. I don't think it makes you soft. I think it makes you is someone with more depth to them. Your emotions are more deep, are more accommodating to subtleties in life and to other people. I mean, I do understand. Old me would have thought I was soft. It's one of the it's one of the difficulties, I think, that all men have to and should come to terms with. How do you deal with and how do you cope with death? I see it in Laura's boy. Oh, I'm saying boy, he's not boy, he's a man. You know, the same age as my own son. They were born in the same year. But there's a difficulty, especially especially in relationship to a son and a mother, or a mother and a son. There's a complication there it's very difficult to reconcile. Oh, thank you, William. Well, David's saying, really understand that, really changed me. Certainly woke me up, and a lot of what he had drilled into us started to make a lot more sense. Was akin to a rebirth. Well, that's what I'm saying. Something, something blossomed inside you that was already there, waiting for some. How could I say? Something to spark it into action. It is really difficult to be a man. Toffee saying, I'm soft as shit, me. It's not going to be good when my mother passes. No, I'm confident it won't be, Toffee. This is what I'm saying. It's a very difficult thing to be a man, especially in the modern age. Real, real saying. Still have my mum, thank God, but I feel for her being on her own all these years. That terrifies me. David saying 100%. John, I became a man on my own 2 feet is all he wanted for us when he was alive. Oh, see, there you go. And I'm not sure, I'm really not sure that any man can teach a son to become a man because I'm not sure myself how you get that aspect of your emotional life to function as it should be functioning. My mother was my moral compass, says the Woodlander. There was a lot of things I didn't do because I knew it would affect her. When she went, I was worried I would go right off the rails, but I didn't. No, because she left you well grounded, Woodlander. That's the key. She left you grounded. And so when you are faced with something, that's what you will reach for, that grounding. And it'll pull you back. Your mum's 70 this year, Toffee. My mother was 95 when she died. I was very fortunate. I had my mother for 95 years. William saying at my father's cremation, a guy I never knew wished me all the best, and he said, "This will make you or break you." Yeah, yeah, we all understand that. I'm nearly crying here, says Wheelander. Yeah. I don't mean to make it, you know, doom and gloomy. There is life after death, after all, folks. I truly believe that. Yeah, 95 she was. I was very fortunate. My sister and I, we had her for so long. And she smoked up until she was 58. And then she took uh, thrombosis in the leg and was warned that the next cigarette she took would kill her. And my mother stopped smoking and went on living. And her lungs healed. And that's a bit tragic, that, William. He was bang on. It was the making of me and my middle brother, but it broke my eldest brother, and he turned to the drugs, unfortunately. That's sad, William. It is, it's sad. But the sad truth is, folks, we all become orphans sooner or later. And those of us, and that would seem to be you folk in the chat there, if we are fortunate, we have good parents, and they fill us with the good stuff, so that when the day comes and we are orphans, we are able to go on and follow the path that seems to be laid out for us. David saying, my brother has lost the plot mentally in and out of mental hospitals for years. Hasn't for a while now, though. That's really tragic, well, David. It is. It's tragic. Treble M. I lost my son and mother in 11 months. And going back to dear Laura, her mum died one day, and the following day, her husband died. I cannot imagine what that must have been like for her. As she would say herself, and often did say, it took the death of her husband for her to recover from the death of her mother. Had those two deaths not come the way they did, it is unimaginable, real, you know? Had those two deaths not come on top of one another like that, she always said that she probably would never have got over her mother's death. She was so close to her mum. And I'm concerned also now for Lorraine. Because of how close she was to Laura. People are stronger than they realise. That's what I have found out in my life. As I always say to people, I don't know how many people believe me or accept what I say, but I always say to people that God never tests you beyond your limit. He takes you to your limit, and often does take you to your limit, but never beyond that. That's what I found. No matter how hard you think life is being, it never destroys you. Well, that seems like a good relationship there, David. Well, thanks very much, Woodlander. When you get a moment, please have a look at your calendar and see if we can fit in a live stream. And we'll speak soon. Got lots of things to talk about. And thanks for your kind thoughts and words, and I'll pass them on to Scott and Lorraine. As Dick, I lost my mum at 17 don't think I got over it still now. I think the wrong parent past my dad. My dad's a complete asshole. I find, to be honest with you, if you look hard enough or with the right frame of mind, you may see reasons why it was your mum that passed away and not your dad. Often it takes a time for us to work out why particular people die when they die. I've had a quick word with St. Peter, says Thomas Aquinas, and I am pleased to report that Laura is guaranteed a place in heaven. Well, thank you very much for those kind words. That's very nice of you. Never give up on family. No, it's always good advice, that, David. Eh? So take care, Woodlander, and we'll get that live stream sorted soon. Well, I was not yet 7 when my dad passed away, so I never really knew him. You're late again, eh? Well, thank you, Hasdak. Yeah. Came home from the war and was dying, but didn't even know it. He was a merchant seaman, did 2 transatlantic convoys, and then he did a Russian convoy, was up, trapped in Russia, the Arctic, over the winter, over the Christmas period. I checked it up. It was minus 44 degrees when he was there. Can you imagine? I can't even imagine that. How cold that must be. Well, my dad was always there for us, no matter what. We'd be totally honest with you, though. Call a spade a spade. Just look for him and you knew PMS. So, as I say, I don't really have any memories of him. I want to remember really one thing. Well, he built He made me a gird. And when I say a gird, I mean a real gird that you see, oh, maybe you don't see anymore, but you used to see in the comic strip Oor Willie. You would see him with a gird, a real gird, an old-fashioned one. Well, my father, while he was alive, he made one of these girds for me. Hasdak, I'm now with a girl from school. Wish we got together back then. Well, at least you're now together. That's that's a blessing. Holy moly. Julia, good evening. There's a 90-year-old woman who lives at -60 in Siberia. Jeez, oh. Yeah, my father had a rare lung disease. Uh, what was it called again? Can't remember. It'll come to me. And because he didn't know what it was, uh, they would, when they took him into hospital, which was very often, they would put him in a TB unit. And of course, in a TB unit, children weren't allowed. So most of the time, while he was alive, I could never be in his company because he would be in hospital in a TB unit. But I can remember him waving from the balcony of the hospital. I remember that. And a couple of fragments of memories. That's all we are, fragments. Yeah. But he did teach me one thing that I remember, and that was how to build or how to make a paper aeroplane that was unlike any other paper aeroplane I have ever seen. And the mystery to me, and still is a mystery to me, is where the knowledge of this aeroplane came from. Where did he learn this, how to make a paper aeroplane the way he did? Someday I'll make it for you and show you. Great. It was a great flyer, this plane. But I was the only person that could ever make one, and I don't remember, you know, anything about it except how to make it. Yeah, thank you, Triple M. Your poor dad. So sad for you and your mum to see him so sick. Yeah. The trouble was too, and my mother used to talk about this, that because she was so young herself, she didn't know. She'd no real life experience, so she didn't really know how ill he really was. Bronchiectasis, myocarditis is what he had. And how that functions is it causes the person to cough constantly. And the lung fills up with a fluid. And no matter how many times you you empty your lung, in other words, no matter how many times you spit this material out, it continually fills and refills. And he used to carry a little a little glass bottle because he was my mother said he was so meticulous about it, he would not spit on the pavement or the street. So he carried this glass bottle around. This it was specially made for this purpose, of course. And he would spit into this bottle before he would use the pavement or the street. He didn't want to infect anybody. Not that he could have, but that was apparently just the way he was. Yeah. Eventually, what happened, of course, was they removed the infected lung. But of course, what happened was the good lung became infected, and that was the end of my father. Good evening, Rory. As a boy, my brother built a Valska wood radio-controlled aeroplane. He loved flying it so much he later became a commercial airline pilot. Wow, absolutely brilliant, eh? Oh, so you're a double granda, are you? Well, I hope the children or the babies, should I say, are well and mum's doing good. Oh, David, I didn't see that. What's this you're saying? I've got a Davidson tartan scarf, hardly worn it. Bought it on Buchanan Street in Glasgow, tartan shop. I bought it. Of course, I loved the tartan and the David connection. Would love to send it to you, John. Oh, well, that's very kind of you, David. The Davidson tartan. I believe there's two. Well, that's very kind of you to think of me. Still small, says Rory, but doing fine. As long as they're healthy, as long as mum's okay, that's all we worry about. So there you go, that's what happened. And then they sent him home at Christmas time. And obviously my mother didn't know that he was home to die. No, that's correct, David. You're absolutely right. It is a dark green colour. I think that's the base colour. It's a lot like my Clan McClan. Dark green, bit of blue and red, if I remember right. I think you're right. Yeah, it's a very dark colour. I don't have it myself, to be honest. Your mum's a Gordon, is she, Rill? Yeah. I think it's the old, not modern version. Some have 3 or 4 or more. I've seen two versions of the Davidson tartan. But as I say, it has never occurred in all these years to buy it. Julia, wow, that sounds interesting. I've flown a plane before with 4 kids and my brother's wife in the back. I was petrified, but I had to pretend I was cool with it because I was being filmed by the border news. Good Lord, Julia. That's something, that. Good for you. Obviously, there's a larger story there at work. But anyway, I've got a video here that I hope will be of some interest. It should at least be of interest to our good friend William. It's about chemtrails and who is responsible for them. So,
for joining me. Now, we're going to talk about the chemical trails that are going on in the sky in a second and what the Met Office have to say about that, and also another freedom of information request. But before we get to that, one of our wonderful lawful helpers on this channel, and I can't say at the moment which one because we don't want to alert any authorities, is who lives in a different country, and you may know him. He has been, we've done various presentations together. He's a good bloke, but he's in somewhat a pickle of a situation in his country and is looking to come back to the UK. He was actually in the UK before and was doing some good stuff. He was helping people left, right, and centre, and I was sending people off to him for help. However, he's trying to get out because in where their country is, in his country is, the things are beginning to kick off, and he wants to get out. And I don't have room to put him up for a few days or a few weeks whilst he gets.
Let me read this from David. Bloody pricey for a proper 100% lamb's wool tartan now. Yeah, I bet it is. Bought a shawl at some time, at the same time for my partner, couldn't believe the price. Well, I'll
Himself
believe you.
sorted. So if anybody's got a spare room or has got an Airbnb or a property or anything like that and would like to help the cause, do get in touch with me, richard@vobes.com, and we'll see what we can do. Obviously, this gentleman is willing to work and be honourable and help out with any legal issues and things. Well, I say lawful issues. But that's, anyway, let me just leave it at that. I just said I'd give a call out because we've got to help one another where we can. Meanwhile, we've got to try and help everybody else understand what they're doing to the skies. And interestingly enough, somebody very kindly sent me what the Met Office have been saying about it. And you'd think they would know what's going on. Well, they admit it. They admit what they're doing. So I'm going to put my headphones on here, these little earbuds. Let's have a little listen to what this gentleman is going to say
Play the video
about the situation. And then we'll have a look at a Freedom of Information request. So let me just get up the appropriate screen here before my headphones fall out. So here we go. This is the Met Office. Let's hear what they've got to say.
Geoengineering is a method to counterbalance the effects of global warming owing to the increased concentrations of atmospheric greenhouse gases.
So first of all, he's making the erroneous conclusion that CO2 is the problem, and he, from the Met Office, Jim Harwood, I think his name was, Hayward, Jim Hayward, his name is, from the Met Office, and they're giving us, they're setting it up, they're setting up the problem, and they're telling us what we already know, the myth of man-made global warming. Okay, let's carry on. So it says here, what different types of geoengineering are there?
Geoengineering or climate engineering generally falls into two specific categories. The first of which is called carbon dioxide removal, which, as the name suggests, is basically capturing carbon from the atmosphere and storing it.
That's not a sensible policy, seeing as CO2 is the gas of life. We need that to grow plants, and animals need to eat the plants, and we obviously eat both. I'm not sure that is a very sensible policy. You're mucking about there with the atmosphere. This is not good.
The second method is what's known as solar radiation management. Now, solar radiation management differs from carbon dioxide removal in that what you're trying to do is reflect an additional amount of sunlight back out to space. So solar radiation management is basically trying to reflect sunlight back out to space, leading to a cooling to counterbalance the increases in greenhouse gases.
Well, it's very cold when the chemical trails are up there in the sky. We certainly notice the difference. I mean, we're in the end of May. We're fast approaching the summer, and we're only given a few days of sunshine in the UK. Wherever you are, it might be slightly different. The idea of reflecting the sun back out, the sunlight is the energy of life. CO2 and sunlight are two of the most important aspects that we want. If you start mucking about by taking the sun out of the equation, you are effectively destroying life. And this is so basic. You cannot believe how ignorant and how stupid these people must be. And these are people in positions of so-called knowledge and power, and just peddling the same old rubbish that everybody knows is rubbish, that they've been told and are paid to do.
There's been various different solar radiation management schemes that have been mooted as being possible, all of which are basically trying to reflect sunlight back out to space.
Why would you do that? Why? Why would you do? Why would you not use some common sense and go, this is barking. This planet has been around for millions of years. We don't, and a few people on it running around like ants have somehow caused this warming, really? And it's all our fault. So what we're going to do is interfere with the planet by reflecting away the sunlight and potentially kill us all off? You are mad.
One of the most popular is to inject some reflective material into the stratosphere. This mimics really the impact of volcanic eruptions.
So we want more. We want to imply that there are more volcanic eruptions. That's a good place to live, is it? By chucking out stuff into the atmosphere, which presumably will eventually fall down. And are we not breathing all of this?
Which have been shown on the observational record to cool climate. There's another method which is artificial brightening of low-lying stratocumulus clouds. If you inject some aerosol into these low-lying stratocumulus clouds, you can brighten them. And of course, when you get a brightening of the planet, you're reflecting more sunlight back out to space.
Yeah, and you're decimating life on the Earth. I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it? Isn't this not just absolutely bonkers?
Those are the two most popular solar radiation management techniques that are in the press at the moment.
And what are the pros and cons, it says here, for...
What did you say? My flat is freezing cold. Mid-June. Something is not right. I would agree with you, Budgie. There's something far wrong. Far wrong. And I've often thought about that, to be honest with you all. Not that I've got any ideas about what they're actually up to, but I thought, if you came to power, John, you could easily set up a small team of people to keep an eye on the skies. And whenever they see, like William does, he sees a lot of this, planes pouring this, whatever this is, out into the atmosphere, then he could, if I was in power, we could do this. And then you could send a signal off to the nearest airport from where William lives and send up a second plane and force the plane to land. And once you've got the plane landed, it wouldn't take very much effort to find out who these people are, who employs them, where do they fly from and to, etc., etc. And we could very easily bring these people under control and into the court system and put an end to it. So what I'm saying is, it would seem reasonable to consider the fact that politicians have no interest in what's going on or finding out. Oh, there you go. David, been spraying here all week. Took a picture earlier, was obvious, chemtrails, miles long, next to wee fluffy real ones, all headed for the central belt, Glasgow or Paisley. Down here where I am. Ludwig, good evening. Treble M's got the heat, got her fan on because she's feeling hot. Well, my heating's on, Julia. And it's set. Yeah, it's set for 70. You're obviously controlling the weather, says David. Agriculture is $1 trillion industry. If they could, they would. Famine, income, methinks. Well, I'm not going to disagree with you, David. There's something nefarious going on, that's for sure. We're all saying there's far too much rain for mid-June. Ludwig saying had some very suspect chemtrails all through our miserable wet spring months. Apparently the hottest months since records began. Well, how can that be? Huh? Something far, far wrong. You've seen it yourself, Will. I haven't seen them too often where I am, but I do accept that they're real. And I don't think it would take that much effort to bring one of these aircrafts down and to find out who's behind it all. And that's what makes me say what I say. That it's obvious that our politicians are either in on it or are ordered to leave things alone. Rory, I set my heating at 20 degrees. So do I. No, I think that's one thing that we could all agree on, that things are not right with the weather. We may not be correct in our speculation, but I think we are correct when we say that there is something far wrong. Yes, but Treble M lives in an area where there are lots of peculiar people.
Geoengineering.
Carbon dioxide removal is often thought of as a relatively benign kind of geoengineering because you're simply reducing the amount of carbon dioxide
and people
in the atmosphere. It's not quite as simple as that because
No.
A lot of the land that would be used for general agricultural practices like they are at the moment would have to be converted into land for specific growing of biomass burning. So there's certainly some ecological implications that are associated with CDR. Solar radiation management, the main conclusions that are coming out of the solar radiation management studies is that you cannot get a no temperature change Earth, no global mean net temperature change, without there being some regional side effects. So although you can hold the temperature of the Earth fixed at, say, present day conditions, you will get regional responses in both temperature. For instance, the poles will warm up more than the equator.
Yeah, so in other words, you're meddling around and you're likely to get side effects. And we know that side effects can be extreme and you can't plan for them. And it's going to be terrible for some people. So why muck about with the atmosphere? Leave it alone. Stop injecting all this stuff into the atmosphere, which we know, of course, I mean, and he's putting a very general case about it, isn't he? he's telling us that it's benign and all of this, and putting it into as friendly words as is possible. But of course, he's not actually telling you that the other substances they're shoving in there with the aluminium and the barium, is it, and the various other. He's not telling you the nefarious things about decimating the farmland, about and the dark forces, and they're trying to kill off the food, the great famine that will come because things won't grow, the poisoning of the atmosphere, the poison, all of it. And he probably doesn't know that. He probably only knows the tiny bit, the story, that is plausible and maybe it makes sense. Well, no, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Stop meddling with our atmosphere. It's our planet. Nobody asked you. You didn't come to the people of the planet or to the people of the country and say, is it all right if we do this? We think there's a problem. Is it okay? Because you've got to breathe this in. You need to okay it. No, we need to say absolutely not. This is not happening. So the Met Office are telling you what's going on. They've said they're spraying this aerosol stuff in there. But let us just have a look at this email here, because this is an email.
Budgie, it's a group called the Frankenskies. Never heard of it, Budgie. And some of the things that are being done, if we're correct in our assumptions, actually don't make any sense to me. If they are poisoning the agricultural land, and they are definitely doing something, surely they will be without food as we would be without food. Is it, do you think? Here's my thoughts on it for what they're worth, which is not very much. But is it possible that the whole aim of their project is simply to drive the temperature either down or up, whichever is the easier, simply to make life that bit more uncomfortable, especially for us folk who live in the northern hemisphere? Could it be as simple as that? Because the other thing that you notice is, or certainly around here, what I've noticed is, it's always the weekends that are worst affected, when people tend to be away from work. Treble M is telling us something very interesting, I think. My friend has 14 acres of woodland. Do you think she's interested in selling it cheap? And says that they have invading bugs and insects being brought over from other countries, causing havoc. Now, that wouldn't at all surprise me. David saying they have food stores in bunkers that will last for decades. Have you seen the size of the ones in the United States, like cities underground. No, actually, David, no, I haven't, to be honest. I take your word for it, though. Well, maybe what we should do is find out who all these people are, drive them into these caves and lock them in, keep them in. You know, you would think sometimes, would you not, that are two distinct, at least two distinct forms of human beings on this planet. Julia's saying she's seen them and they're heavily guarded. Well, I'm sure they would be. Well, I know about the seed banks, Budgie. They also have seed banks. I knew about that. They can destroy everything and start all over. I'm dreading a Labour government, says Trevor M. David, look up what's under Denver Airport. Julia saying, I've got my own seed bank. Well done, you, Julia. The best I think we can hope for here in this general election is a hung parliament. I think that would be the best outcome because our party is in no position to challenge. A, we don't have the money, nor do we have the number. I believe the jet stream has moved. Has that? I believe it has. Starmer's my MP. Oh, God help you, Treble M. The borough is an awful dump. I can well believe it. Same as Sturgeon. Or people she supposed to represent an awful part of Glasgow. Good for you, Julia. You're well organised, that's for sure. Don't even know what half of that stuff is. I think we'll all need to go and live beside Julia, yeah? I think that's the best we can hope for as a hung parliament. Whether it comes about or not is something else. We certainly need that, Hasdak. He's getting touted for a top job, that Lammy. Appalling. Absolutely appalling. That's what we need. A Guy Fawkes. Well, most of those people are trebly. Although you're not allowed to say that anymore. But they are, mainly. That's the rest of the expression, Ludwig. But yeah. That's commonly known among sensible people. Well, that's another good example, I would say. Rory. Good evening. Good evening, Hasdak. Yes, he does get called to these Bilderberg group meetings. But I don't think it means a lot, to be honest, Budgie. These people are, as we usually say, do we not? They are useful idiots. I think that's all it is. Anytime you get rise of totalitarianism, you have white walls and machine guns close by for useful idiots. And they're the first to occupy them. The white walls, that is. And I would venture to suggest that he would be one of them. But their world view and their world ambition is crumbling, is coming to an end. David is saying there is an independent and reform candidate as well as usual suspects out here, Highlands West Coast. Have to see if can find out about the indie. Well, it's something I've given a lot of thought to. We don't have the money. The People's Party doesn't have the money, nor do we have the numbers for canvassing purposes. So there's little, if anything, to be gained by trying to stand this time round. No, Treble M, I have fortunately not seen that image and I have no wish to see it. Uh, but what's going on in the rest of the world is good news, people. We have to look elsewhere for optimism. With what's going on in India, Russia, and China, and the global south, as it's called, they're becoming stronger and stronger. And as they do, the globalists get weaker. And look what's just happened in Europe with the latest voting trends. They're on the skids, the globalists. Not saying they're done, of course they're not. But not as secure as they once were. I think, personally, they have reached their zenith and will now begin a decline. This genocide in Gaza has changed much in the world. Things can never return to the way they were. That's for sure. I'm confident of that. Which means, in my view, that globalists have seen their best days. Now, I'm not saying they're going to disappear tomorrow and everything will be rosy in the garden. I don't believe that for a moment. It will still take nationalist governments all over the Western world to begin to put things right, and it will take time. Ludwig saying Trump is the only politician I've heard recently to call out the globalists as a problem that needs addressing. David is saying, out of chaos comes order as their motto. I think they will push things so far on purpose to bring in ultra authoritarian regime because they aim to make things so bad. Well, again, I'm not going to say that you're completely wrong, David. They may and well indeed try to do what you suggest. But what can they possibly do with the rest of the world? And that's a big problem, and it always has been a big problem. Because the rest of the world looks on, and more of our people are beginning to waken up and look on as we do. And until such times as the People's Party gathers more and more support in numbers, there's little we can do except continually make our case and point out the corruption and the evil doing that goes on all around us until we can make a bid for political control. That's how I see it. It would be great if all that could happen in next to no time, but as things are, I don't think it will happen in next to no time. But it will happen. Of that, I'm confident. David, akin to what happened in Germany and the rise of a certain Peter, they played the same methods over and over, history repeating. Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. But never forget, David, they remember that history as well as we do. And as I always say about that history, it was a different era with different problems to the problems we have now. Certainly the same folk behind it. I give you that, that's for sure. We have to find our own road. We can learn from the past, and that's as much as we can do, is learn from it. And there is much to learn. But we cannot imitate or copy that past. We can learn. And that's what I like to think that I've done. I've learned from that past. Because I don't think the answers that applied back then would apply today. I just don't see that. But because of what's happened in Gaza, so much more of the world population have had their eyes opened for the first time. And that has made all the difference, because those folk like us will never be able to go back. Now that they've seen what they have seen, they can't return to the way things were. Love that, John, says David. If you don't learn from your history, doomed to repeat it. Yeah, why I don't like Remembrance Day folk. Say that, remember, but they don't. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are. Well, that's for sure. That's for sure. We have to play different cards in a different way. We have to be more subtle in what we do and say. I get very cross when I hear some people saying what they say, especially about that part of history. Because we are not in that same situation. It's easy to identify with that situation. I know it is. It's very tempting to identify with that particular situation. But most of it isn't relevant. That's a good one, Audrey. That's a good one. Remembrance Day is the criminals returning to the scene of the crime. That's very good. That's also very good, David. I think they celebrate the sacrifice side of it to their God. Oh, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely correct. All wars are bankers' wars. Too true. Too true, Hasdak. Too true. And as I say, there are so many different aspects of that history that we must remain silent on it. We must. If we expect to make progress, we have to change our thrust politically. Ludwig War is a racket, yeah. One of the great things that I would love to see happen is for the People's Party to get power and get control of the education system, because that's the key for the future. Rory, I just heard that the Royal British Legion is advertising for a diversion and inclusion officer for 67,000 a year. Wow. Watch where your money is going, he says. It's a nonsense. What does a British Legion need a diversion and inclusion officer? Well, is this people that want to be included in the dead? Or do they want to be diverted to what? A new battlefield? Dumb. Good for you, Hasdak. Well, I think that's what Rory's trying to encourage, Trevor. I think he's trying to encourage people not to give them money if they go ahead with this. And I would support that idea. I'd also support what Hasdak's doing, as well as joining the People's Party. We need more than one finger in one pie. I know it's difficult. So my voice is a voice in the wilderness because we have no political voice at all. Even if we had one voice, it would make a difference. But we don't even have that one voice. For various reasons, we don't have it. But not only do we need to purchase that land, we also need to get political power. And that's without a doubt. I have no doubt in my mind on that one. None whatsoever. No, I'm not saying I'm the best person for that. But I do know and recognise that we need political power and we need a method of getting it. As that, I keep being told I'm British, but I'm not. I'm English. There is no representation for us. That's why I've always regarded the thrust for political power should come from Scotland, for no other reason than the fact that we have, in my view, a better chance of winning seats up here than we do in a first past the post. And I also completely support the view that if we could get some representation in Scotland, it would encourage support in England for English people. That's how I see it playing out. The Woodland Initiative needs a political voice, and the People's Party needs a voice that can represent each area without it necessarily being a political voice. But gaining land is very important, there's no doubt about it. But no less or more important than gaining political power. And when you're a small party like we are, first past the post always plays against you. Always. Well, thanks, David, for agreeing. The Woodlander initiative is 100% the way to go. For certain things, yes, absolutely, but it needs a voice also. I see how one supports the other. It's not a competition. It's definitely not a competition. I'm certainly not out to outdo the Woodlander, and I know that he is not out to outdo me or the party. Of course he's not. They're complementary. Well, of course it would be different up here. We've got that proportional voting system up here. That's why I say what I say. It would be easier if we had the membership and the money to get a foothold in Scotland. And once we had a foothold in Scotland, it would be something that the rest of the country, such as Wales and England and Northern Ireland, could look to. You're a Sassenach, were you brought up a Sassenach, were you? Well, that's the way I've always seen it. That's the way I've always promoted the party online. And when I was out canvassing or any time I talk about the party in the real world, that's exactly the attitude that I take. We need to somehow get ourselves into political positions in Scotland, and that will, I think, encourage support elsewhere. A short reflection on it, David, and I think you'll see my point. The problem is the same problem that every small party has. £5,000 to stand for a general election. That was done when I was a young man. They put it up to that. and deliberately so to keep working class people out of politics. Because Scotland used to have a tradition of independence. Well, they don't have any incentive to vote, David. That's why they don't vote. We have a political program that would encourage people to vote, but they need to hear it. That takes money. And it takes money, as I say, to stand for political office. Not at the local level, certainly, but at the Scottish level or the general election level. And as I've said many, many times, and I can't do everything myself. I'm only one person. I need help to promote the party in all sorts of different ways. I need that help. But I don't know what it is about nationalists. They seem to be very reluctant to come together for whatever reasons. I don't know. I've supported the PTSD camp near Bath recently, and I've visited them on a couple of occasions. Good bunch of people who house veterans for free. There's many things can be done if you've got, as I say, if you've got the personnel, if you've got the money. There's many things you can do to improve a political party's fortunes. I can think of many. Oops. Asdak. Is it because they are scared of the racist word? I think there's an element of that attached to it, Hasdak, but I don't think it's a complete answer. I think so many people have been battered down over time into apathy. I think that's one of the biggest problems. People tend to take their cue from other people. So if you're standing beside somebody and you are saying quite openly on the street, I don't give a shit if somebody calls me a racist, because I am not a racist. If they see that you say things like that with confidence, and I don't mean bellowing and threatening, but just saying it in a confident manner, I think other people take their cue from that, and it gives them confidence to say, well, maybe I'm not a racist if I say this. Why am I a racist? Because I want certain particular ideas from my country. What's wrong with that? Everyone wants something good for where they live. Why not us? I think there's a lot of that attached to it. But that word does scare people a little bit. It doesn't scare me at all. I know it's hogwash. But that's me. But when I was out on the street canvassing for the local election, and a couple of years back there, and a lot of people just said straightforwardly that they wouldn't be voting for anyone. What is the point? They have already given up. And that's because they haven't seen any politician making a liar out of them. Because when they get in, nothing changes. And it's very difficult to convince people that you are somehow different, because I'm sure that the rest of them say that, even when they don't mean it. There's many problems, folks. It's just, I would rather we ploughed away at the political solution rather than slide into a violent solution. Because the trouble with violence is it's possible to start it, but it's damn near impossible to stop it once it's started. Well, of course, you know fine well, Hashtag, that's not true what you're saying. Of course it doesn't. But I take your point. As I say, this is part of the problem. It's an educational problem and a confidence problem. We have to somehow give our people back confidence that they once had. Exactly feel the same, John. Fear not. How can you call race that is made up mostly for two races, the Celts and the Picts? I find laughable. The small hats came up with the term to stop being outed. Now, people have to have confidence in themselves. And it's people like us, people who are members of the People's Party, who should lead in that confidence. And if you're not a party member and have the confidence, then you should lead also. I don't know any other way of helping our people to gain that self-confidence that they once had. It took my nurses 18 months to finally get blood samples off me. Yeah, I've been trying at least once a month. My arm is very sore and bruised. Oh gosh, Julia, I know something of how you feel. Last year when I was in the hospital, my hands were aching, both of them, from giving blood samples. Back of the hand. I got to the point when I just didn't want any of these nurses to come near me. Not because I was frightened, but because my hands were aching. I just could not take any more. No, so it is, Hasdak. Thank you for bringing my attention to the time. Of course, you're correct, David. That's the problem. But the problem is not what you're saying. The problem is because people don't know what you're saying to be the truth. That's part of the problem. And they have been crushed, deliberately so. Long term unemployment, access to illegal drugs, access to cheap alcohol, etc. When you take hope from people, they have nothing. They have nothing without hope. That's what's wrong with politics today. There is no nuts and bolts politics. There is no politics of employment. It's all this nonsense identity politics. And that's, again, part of what we have to change. So anyway, so everything being as it is tonight, folks, I intend to be here on Friday. Just remember, folks, that given the situation at the moment, I'll do my best to be here. Okay? So until Friday, let me say adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Friday, goodbye for now. Enjoy the music. And with God's grace, I will see you on Friday. Enjoy the music. Have a day off, John. Have some your time. Thank you, Hasvak. I'll do my best. I should be going to bed. Oh, it's
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim,
There's Joni.
hides a fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves.
Thank you, Joni.
But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart. Gently now she holds me, melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more,
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow,
But an important glow.
in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past the consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony.
All together now.
But we're much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly know.
We are one small glow,
But a very important glow.
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow, in the eternal flow.
So thanks very much, all of you, for being here tonight, and thanks for all your words of sympathy. I shall pass them on, and hopefully I will see you all again on Friday evening, 9 o'clock. So until then, bye for now, and take care.